A lot of men are surrounded by people and still completely alone at work or at home in a room full of noise. And what's becoming very clear, loneliness isn't just emotional anymore, it's becoming physical too. Welcome back to the Healing Perspective. I'm Nurse Healy. Today we're talking about something men rarely say out loud: disconnection, and what prolonged isolation actually does inside the body. Researchers are finding something disturbing about loneliness in men. Chronic loneliness activates the body's stress response. Cortisol stays elevated, inflammatory markers rise, the immune system becomes less efficient. Sleep changes, blood pressure starts to climb, and cardiovascular risk increases. That's not poetry, that's measurable biology. The body interprets prolonged social disconnection as a threat to survival because evolutionarily, isolation meant danger. Humans in groups survived. Humans alone, well, they often didn't. So the nervous system responds to loneliness the same way it responds to physical threat. It stays alert, it stays tense, and it never fully rests. And here's what makes this harder to recognize in men specifically. Male isolation rarely looks dramatic. It doesn't look like somebody sitting alone in a dark room. It looks like working later or talking less, canceling plans, emotionally just checking out, scrolling constantly on their phone or on your internet, convincing yourself you're just tired. Men don't disappear all at once, they fade gradually. And because they're still functioning, nobody sounds the alarm, including themselves. Now, that brings me to a question from Marcus in Edmonton who asks, Nurse Healy, I keep hearing about GLP-1 drugs like Ozempic being used for everything now, for alcohol cravings, addictions, even depression. What is actually going on out there? Well, Marcus, great question, and you're right. The research is moving fast on this one. GLP-1 receptors aren't just in the gut, they're in the brain too, specifically in the reward and craving centers. So, when these drugs activate those receptors, some people report that the noise around food or alcohol, even other compulsive behaviors, just quiets down. Now, this is early science. We're not at the point where I tell anyone to run to their doctor specifically for that reason. But what it does tell us is something important. A lot of what we call addiction or craving isn't a character flaw, it's neurochemistry. And that conversation is worth having. Thanks, Marcus. Keep the questions coming. Now, let's get back to what happens when men stop reaching out altogether. One of the biggest lies men absorb from the time they're young is handle it yourself. Well, there's value in resilience, but there's a difference between independence and isolation. A lot of men crossed that line years ago and called it strength. The research is very clear. Men with strong social connections have better cardiovascular health, better immune function, better mental health outcomes, I guess you'd call it, and longer life expectancy. Not because connection is sentimental, because the body physically functions differently when it doesn't feel like it's alone. If you notice yourself pulling away from people or losing interest in connections, emotionally disappearing into your work or scrolling or silence, you should pay attention to that. Not as a weakness, it's as a signal, because isolation becomes physical eventually, and the body keeps score, whether you acknowledge it or not. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Please take care of yourself and the people in your circle. I'm Nurse Healy. I'll see you next time.